If you guys recall, last year we looked at the Lenovo Slim Pro 9i and we gave it the best Windows-based productivity laptop for 2023 because it just had everything that you could possibly look for in a premium Windows laptop. A great display, great form factor, minimalistic design, and it also had some amazing gaming performance in a thin and light form factor. This year, Lenovo was going through a bit of a rebrand. So if you recall with previous generation laptops, there was a bit of confusion between the North American SKUs and the global SKUs. So globally, it was called the Yoga series, whereas in North America, it was called the Slim series, which was just confusing in general. So in 2024, they just decided to stick to Yoga everywhere, which is definitely a welcoming change. So this right here is the brand new Lenovo YOGA Pro 9i that's been announced at CES this year, and they've packed some incredible hardware underneath the hood. In fact, they refined a lot of the things that we loved about the previous generation Slim Pro 9i and tweaked a few things to just make it a little bit better. So we've partnered with them to showcase what this new laptop brings to the table. Now, from a high-level perspective, the YOGA Pro 9i comes with Intel's brand new Meteor Lake Core Ultra CPUs, along with more power allocated towards the RTX 40 series graphics cards. They've also upgraded the cooling system underneath the chassis to improve thermal performance for both the CPU and the GPU. And this year, they're only going to be offering a single 16-inch SKU, so they've taken away the 14-inch model for 2024. And it also comes with some AI capabilities baked in, which again is something that we should be expecting for a lot of these laptops in 2024. So let's start with some of the biggest changes added to this year's laptop. And the first thing is, of course, the ability to spec this with an RTX 4070 that can run up to 100 watts. And the cool thing is they've managed to keep the same form factor, so it still is 0.71 inches thin and it weighs less than 5 pounds, which is pretty impressive considering this is a 16-inch laptop. Now, how do they cram all that performance into this thin form factor? Well, if we actually take a look underneath the hood, you'll notice that they've upgraded the fans. So the first thing is that they've added a fan outlet that directs cool air towards the PCB, and they've also integrated new airflow guides. So these are essentially a foam or rubber type based materials, and this does a few things. A, it increases airflow to where fresh air is needed, and it decreases circulation of hot air within the chassis. They've also added an exhaust grill at the back to dissipate the heat even faster. But it doesn't stop there, because along with some hardware improvements to the chassis, they've also done some software improvements to enhance the overall user experience. So the first thing is that they have integrated LA3 AI core chip. So this is sort of like a hardware accelerator that's supposed to tune the CPU and the GPU based on your scenario or workload. Now, this all happens behind the scenes with no cloud-based involvement. So it creates its own profile and it just knows how the component should behave based on the application that you're using, which is pretty neat. But with all the cooling enhancements designed to the newer hardware, how does it actually translate to real-world use? So we decided to put this 2024 model and compare it to the previous generation 2023 Slim Pro 9i, and the results are pretty interesting. So the first thing to take into account is that Meteor Lake takes efficiency and performance to a whole new level when compared to Raptor Lake. Now, on a full core Autodesk My workload, the CPU temperatures remain mostly identical, but the biggest improvement is the noise levels have improved significantly. Now, when it comes to GPU temperatures during gaming, the averages across all benchmark games shows a drop from 72.3 degrees Celsius to a cool 68 degrees Celsius on the newer YOGA Pro 9i. So overall, thermal performance has improved quite a bit with the newer design. Now, if you dive a little bit into gaming performance, this year's YOGA Pro 9i steps up its game, showcasing a commendable 5 to even 18% improvement over its predecessor, especially in games like CSGO 2 and Doom Eternal. The real game changer lies in the 1% lows, where the newer YOGA Pro 9i shines. These improvements translate to a more consistent and enjoyable gaming experience. So last gen's Slim Pro 9i featured Intel's Raptor Lake H-Series Core i9 13905H processor, whereas this year's YOGA Pro 9i is using Intel's new Core Ultra 9 185H. This is actually our first experience with the highest-end Core Ultra processor, and we have a lot more testing to do, so definitely stay tuned for that. But just running a few preliminary tests, we found out that the new Ultra chips bring some generous improvements to the table, especially with rendering apps like Blender and Houdini. Now, as you can see, we are testing both balance and performance modes on both last year's Slim Pro 9i and this year's YOGA Pro 9i. Video editing performance remains mostly the same. I mean, you shave a few seconds here and there. I should also mention that this is a pre-production sample, which is why we weren't able to completely evaluate this laptop. In fact, I would think of this video as sort of like an overview to see what the new Core Ultra 9 CPUs can bring to the table in terms of performance. So think of this as a preview. In fact, Lenovo still has to bake in some more optimizations to squeeze a little bit more performance out of this laptop. So when we get the production sample later in the studio, I will definitely make sure to update you guys on its performance. So stay tuned for a full review later this year. That being said, there's one big surprise that the Yoga Pro 9i brings to the table this year, and that is the battery life improvements. You see, Lenovo was not only able to just improve the cooling system with this year's Yoga Pro 9i, they was actually able to increase the battery size. So we're going from 75 watt hours on the Slim Pro 9i to 84 watt hours, which is a pretty big upgrade. And that alone brings some substantial improvements this year, because when you pair the bigger battery with the efficiency gains that Intel baked into the Core Ultra processors, you're guaranteed to get really good battery life with this laptop. So we went from getting around 6 hours with light load use to over 9 hours on the Yoga Pro 9i, which is pretty impressive. Now, mind you, this thing is packed with an RTX 4070 running at 100 watts. So keep in mind that when you're running this thing on battery mode, the power gets cut down pretty significantly. But just the fact that you have a laptop with a 4070 being able to push out over 9 hours of battery life is pretty impressive in my opinion. Now, if you look at the exterior design of the Yoga Pro 9i, not a lot has changed compared to the previous generation Slim Pro 9i. So for the most part, you're still getting a very clean and simple minimalistic design with the Yoga logo that's tucked right over here. I've got the spec here in Lunar Gray, but you can also get it in Tidal Teal, which is also one of my other favorite colors. It's very different compared to every other laptop that's out there. You still get the Comfort Edge feature around the sides, which helps with everyday handling. It's not super sharp. It's very comfortable to type with. You're not going to end up with wrist marks. I really appreciate that about these Yoga laptops. And while the chassis is made out of recycled aluminum and post-consumer recycled plastic materials, Lenovo hasn't compromised on the overall build quality of the Pro 9i. This thing still feels awesome. The hinge doesn't wobble that much. For a 16-inch laptop, this is probably one of the best premium made laptops that you can find on the market. Very similar to the Slim Pro 9i. So I love the fact that they're continuing with those premium features. Now, if you look at the port situation this year, even though from a form factor standpoint, this thing remains pretty much the same compared to the Slim Pro 9i, Lenovo was still able to add more ports to the 2024 model. So we get an extra USB Type-C port and an extra USB Type-A port on the right-hand side, which is really thoughtful. Again, I can't say no to more ports. I love having more ports on a fairly thin laptop. And you also get a full-size SD card slot. Unfortunately, this isn't UHS 2 compliant, so for creators, that might be a bit of a downside. But yeah, at least it's there, and I appreciate it. And just like every other Yoga laptop, this year's Pro 9i features the physical webcam kill switch, which just gives you an added peace of mind when you're using this laptop. In terms of the webcam, you're getting a 5 megapixel, a 1080p sensor, which still looks great. It sounds great. Again, great for meetings and all that kind of stuff. Now, when you look at the interior space, you're still getting a full-size keyboard with some of the best switches that you can find for a laptop in general. So it still features 1.8 millimeters of key travel. So it's very similar to last year's Slim Pro 9i. I guess the one minor change you're going to notice with this layout is the dedicated Windows Copilot button, which is used to summon the suite of AI tools provided by Microsoft. And you still get the massive precision glass trackpad for smoother navigation, front-facing speakers, which still sound great. Now, my favorite feature about the Yoga Pro 9i is certainly the display, because if you know me, I'm a sucker for something that has higher brightness levels, higher color accuracy, faster refresh rate, and something that's really massive with thin bezels. I'm a happy guy. So Lenovo is continuing to push the boundaries when it comes to display technology. And they started this with the Slim Pro 9i last year by offering mini LED options, which was just insane. So the base model is going to come with a Quad HD Plus 120Hz IPS display that has a matte texture, so it's not glass and it does not feature touch support. The next tier is a 3.2K 165Hz IPS panel that also comes in both matte or glass variants with touch support. And the option that I have right over here is the cream of the crop 3.2K mini LED display with 165Hz refresh rate. And it's got touch support, so that's really nice when it comes to editing photos. If you're using Lightroom, it's super intuitive and it works really well. This display is such gorgeous. I mean, look at this Rennsport Porsche that I have over here. It's cool. So the last thing to cover here is specs and pricing for the Yoga Pro 9i. So this thing starts with a Core Ultra 5 CPU, but you can get a Core Ultra 9 processor like the one that I have right over here. And it comes with 16 gigabytes of dual channel memory as base, running at insanely high memory speeds. And you can get this with a 1 terabyte SSD. The graphics can be configured with Intel Arc or an RTX 4050, 4060, or 4070. And the starting price for this thing is going to be $1699, which is pretty insane considering all the premium features that this thing packs. And Lenovo was also pretty generous to include 2 months of Adobe's Creative Cloud subscription service, which is, I guess, a complimentary value add-on for those creators who just want to hop into content creation and stuff like that. So that's the Yoga Pro 9i from Lenovo. Let us know what you guys think about this laptop. Is there anything that you're excited about it? And if you guys have any questions regarding the Pro 9i that you want us to cover in the full performance review, let us know in the comments down below. I'm Eber with Hardware Canucks. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.